It's been a while, hasn't it? Um, I collected some questions from you folks in expectation of doing this video. Before I get to the meat of those, though, I should probably talk about what's been going on lately with me writing. If you've been following me, then you know that I will be and have been releasing one short story per month. I'm hoping to do it for an entire year. The chances of me actually making it through the entire year intact in that way are pretty low. But the first bunch, for those of you who picked them up, are aware, are re-releases of things that had previously only been in collections or have been newsletter perks. So if you do not follow my newsletter, this is a good way for you to get them. If you do follow my newsletter but missed them and don't feel like sending me an email asking for them, this is a good way to get them. If you just want to have an extra cover on your ebook reader's shelf, this is a good thing to purchase. So there's that. I'm also working on a few other things which aren't far enough along for me to talk about, but the next thing out will probably be the 5th Free Wrench novel, which is being called, at this point, Cipher Hill. But that's a working title, so we'll find out. That goes to the editor in just a few days. But I didn't do this to promote myself. I did this because I wondered if you had questions, and you do. So let's get started on those. First question here is from Roberto on Facebook, who, amongst a much larger comment that was very kind, he asked, "Is there a possibility of there being a box set of hardcovers for the Deacon series in the future? I enjoy collecting things that I love, and I'd love to clear space for something like that on my shelf." Well, Roberto, aside from revealing that I have a very hard time reading things out loud, let's see. Hardcovers of the Book of Deacon series. Probably those will eventually happen. I've finally gotten savvy enough to find a way to do it that's not going to break the bank. A boxed set for those hardcovers, less likely. Without a Kickstarter, that's not likely to happen because I'm not a big shot and I don't have like inventory. Like this shelf here, down here, underneath that is where all of my inventory is. And if I was to do like a 500 unit run of boxes to put hardcover books in, then it would take up a lot of space that would frustrate the other people I live with. So you might see me do a Kickstarter, and that would be a way for me to basically pre-sell all of the ones I'm going to make. But if you don't see that, then don't get your hopes up for box sets. Next question from Shauna on Facebook. What was the development of Lane like, and where did you draw inspiration? How did you decide on his backstory and such? Well, I wanted a character that was immediately monstrous upon looking at him. Like you would know at a glance, and if he showed his face at all, that he was a monster. But I also wanted him to be, conceivably noble. And so I thought like a werewolf type thing. But you can see some of the elements actually that led to this character. They're fairly obvious. Disney's Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a fox. I watched that a lot when I was younger, so that planted a seed. A much more obscure one. You're probably looking at a picture of it right now. There was a very obscure game for the Sega Saturn called Shining the Holy Ark, and it had this character in it. It was the first time I could remember that something that looked like a werewolf but did not change was in anything where other such creatures weren't common. So there are people in this game, but there's also this thing. And I thought, well, that'd be an interesting idea for a character. And I think you can see the inspiration in that character there. So that's how I decided on the character. How did I choose the backstory? As with almost all of my characters, I reverse engineered the backstory. So this is the kind of character I want. What sort of life would create that character? And it was very nebulous and ill-defined when I was writing the trilogy. But then when I had to write the prequel, which is entirely about Lane, I had to fill it out, and so it got a lot deeper. But mostly, I started with the kind of slot that needed to be filled, and then I chose what that character was, and then I created the life that would lead to that character. Hope that answers it. Next question from Chris on Twitter. Which characters have evolved in the most unexpected ways and why? The undisputed champion for that would be Ma, the AI. Ma started off in the first Big Sigma book. She was just going to be a throwaway gag in that somebody would ring a doorbell, they'd get what seemed like an automated voice system, and then it turns out that while it sounds like an automated voice system, it was in fact a thinking creature of some kind, an AI. But I kept on giving her better lines as the story was edited, and then by the second story, she's basically the second lead. And, well, I'm going to put on the spoiler hat now. Spoiler hat. If you get late enough into the series, it can fairly be said that Ma is most of the characters in some of the stories. So, there's that. Spoiler hat off for a second. Runners up for weirdest evolution of a character. Ivy. Ivy from the Book of Deacon series. She was originally completely different. Like, it never actually made it to paper, but originally Ivy was going to be more of a seductress, and she is very much not that in the book. So that was a weird evolution. But that was just basically me abandoning an idea, but using the same position in the story for something entirely different. Next, also from Chris, also on Twitter. What is the strangest way you've broken out of a writing obstacle? Strangest inspirational moment? There's actually not a lot of variation for me on how I get out of a writing obstacle. Frequently, I will procrastinate, for example, by making a video in which I answer questions. But if I get stuck, I will talk to my brother or my friends. I will read a book or watch a movie, or I'll listen to music. And I guess, therefore, the strangest way is usually the music, because the things that I envision in my head when I'm listening to music has very little to do with the actual music. So everything from the climax of a book to an entire character has been inspired by completely unrelated music. Rill in the book Between was written almost entirely because I wanted a character who could feasibly sing harmonies by herself. So there's that. Next, also Twitter, this one from Felicity. What was the best money you ever spent as a writer? No doubt the best money I ever spent as a writer was the covers of the Book of Deacon trilogy. This is what the original covers looked like. I made them myself, and they're not great. I made $3,000 after a particularly lucky piece of promotion occurred, and I spent all $3,000 to make these covers. I think you'll agree that they are a vast improvement, and more to the point, I started making 3 times as much money immediately upon making those my covers. So, really, they're the reason I have a career. Best money I ever spent. Nick Delagaris, by the way, artist behind those and behind almost all of my covers. I owe him a great deal. Next, also from Twitter, also Felicity. What was the hardest scene for me to write? Let's put this hat on again. If you spoilers, if you have not read Temporal Contingency, this is a spoiler for you. Temporal Contingency is the 4th book in the Big Sigma series. The last scene featuring the character Cole in that book is intensely emotional. And originally it was not the way that was. It was actually rewritten after beta readers got their hands on it. And when I wrote that scene, I cried. It's the most impactful emotional moment I've had while writing, was writing that scene in which otherwise fairly comedic character sacrifices herself for the good of others. So, again, that was a spoiler, but very hard to write that scene. There's tissues right here as a result of me learning that scenes like that come around. So, that's that. Next, also from Felicity, also from Twitter. Do you have any hidden or uncommon talents other than juggling? Well, one of them is juggling. you've specifically removed that from the equation, but here's some video of me juggling. I started learning that this year because I needed something to do that was not typing, because I don't want to get carpal tunnel. So 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off. What else? I'm also okay with yo-yos. Here's some video of me yo-yoing. I have a master's degree in computer engineering. That is a talent you don't get to see that often in my day-to-day life. I used that skill to make a glove along with 3 others I worked with. I made a translator glove that translates the sign language alphabet. I used to program for a living, and I wrote a call allocation front end for a healthcare organization, and also a data processing and reporting suite for that healthcare organization. Exciting. I guess that's it. I used to play the keyboard a little, but nothing to write home about. Next, Corey from Twitter. Of all of the characters you've created, which is your favorite? Yes, I know I'm basically asking you to pick a favorite child. It's a tough question. Probably Ma, for the reasons listed above, but she's a very fun character to write. And because it's a story that takes place ostensibly with our own history as its history, I can reference things in my actual life, which I don't get to do with most of my stuff. Ivy is also fun, and basically every character in between is fun. I wrote between almost entirely just to write fun characters. Okay, next, Shola, also from Twitter. Is there anything new coming up in the Big Sigma universe? I botched this a little bit. I was expecting this year to have, probably around this time, I was expecting to be releasing a new Big Sigma story. But my schedule got really turned upside down by a couple of poor, a 10-car pileup of bad scheduling decisions have pushed my schedule out of whack. So I'm way behind on that. I haven't started on it. That said, the next thing in Big Sigma you're likely to see is going to be a re-release of 2 of the short stories that were in the collection and were also newsletter perks. Those are not new. But if all goes according to plan, there will be at least 1 new novella as part of this 1 short story per month thing that I'm doing. So that'll happen, hopefully. I have new covers to that effect coming along. And I do want to get started on the next novel that would be taking place in the second half of this year. I would be writing it. The writing would be taking place in the second half of this year. So not immediately, but it'll be coming along. Next, which one of your books would you most like to see as a movie? Also from Shola, also from Twitter. I think Big Sigma 2, Unstable Prototypes, would be the best movie. It's very Ma heavy. It's got Squee, the funk in it. It's very exciting. There's combat and world hopping. I think it'd be good. I also would like to see the Book of Deacon as like an animated series. Not a movie, but an animated series. That'd be pretty cool. And there's actually been some interest in making stuff into a movie. Both the Book of Deacon and Free Wrench have both briefly been considered by looky-loos. We'll see if anything comes of those. Almost certainly not. And finally, also from Twitter, this one's from Kate. If you had to pick one of your own universes to be in, where would you be, both which universe and where in it, and what would you be doing? This is a good question. I've got to say, being in the Book of Deacon, specifically in Entwell, and just getting better at using magic would be really awesome. Also, hanging out in between that book/setting, preferably in Heartcore, which is sort of the better established location there where things are happy. That'd be cool just because there's such a variety of creatures and settings and stuff. But yeah, that's where I would be and that's what I would be doing. that concludes the list of questions I had at the time I decided to start recording this. So, anything else I need to say? Keep your eyes peeled for a few releases I'm hoping to put out soon. Again, Cypher Hill, Free Range 5, probably announced officially in a few months. I gotta get the cover for that. The Adventures of Russell and Eddie, which had previously been and is still on Tumblr as a bi-weekly thingy, is going to be available as a book. Don't know when, but the edit will be sometime later this year. April. Actually, no, I'm getting it done in April, so not too long from now. And other than that, that's it. If you want to be up on this sort of thing, my monthly whatnots and such, you should sign up for my newsletter. I guess I'll put a link if I can. And as for that, if you have any questions that you did not have answered here, put them in the comments or send me an email or Twitter, Facebook message, whatever. And thanks for watching.